Pam!
Jeffrey.
It's been a minute.
It's been a little bit too long.
Leah, our producer, just told us that it was February that we did our last one. It's now
My
June.
Goodness. And imagine what has actually happened in the world of AI in that
Nothing's
time.
happened in AI in 4 months at all.
Not at all.
My God. So now we have things like Opus 4.8, ChatGPT 5.5.
Codex.
Codex has made a huge comeback.
So
Matter of fact, I've always been a big Claude guy. I will say Codex has got me on the verge of spending more time there.
And remind me, so I have paid versions of both.
Yeah.
Can I get at Codex? I use Claude Cowork.
Yes.
Can I get at Codex on ChatGPT with my paid version?
Yes.
Okay.
You can. And I highly recommend it. It's just an application that you download.
Yeah.
Called Codex instead. The benefit of it is it's going to do much more on all your computer itself, like on the files and everything else. One of the projects, like you can do projects and custom GPTs in ChatGPT.
Yeah.
There's limitations on the number of files and things you can do there. With Codex, all that goes away. And if you're in North America, they even have a feature called computer use, which you can tell it to do stuff, and it will literally run your computer for you, and you can sit there and watch it. It'll open up your email and do stuff. It'll open up Excel and do stuff. If there's some obscure application that you use for work that doesn't have any MCPs or connectors or anything, it'll just open it up and do that for you with computer use. Claude Cowork has something similar to computer use, but is nowhere near as good as Codex.
And what's so interesting to me is every 2 weeks, one of them leapfrogs the other one in terms of like the advancements.
Yeah.
It is that fast that these things are evolving.
It was 6 weeks from 4.7 release to 4.8.
Yeah.
Now there's lots of rumors out there that's because of their coming up IPO and they had to respond to I think 5.5 coming out and other things, right? Yeah. But even still, I mean, it's becoming faster and faster.
Yeah.
The prediction is next, it's going to be every month.
And there's going to be something.
And then it's every week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watch, like if you have the applications like Claude Code, or not Claude Code, Claude on your desktop, and the same with either Codex or ChatGPT desktop.
Yeah.
You'll notice it'll give you an update saying, hey, there's an update here. And it happens sometimes multiple times a day.
In a day.
It's kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So fast. They're pushing everything out so fast. So the other thing is, I think, happening faster from when we first started talking about this is we wanted to encourage people to use these tools.
And we were successful.
Right? So many people are using
the world.
Right. It's so true. Like everybody I talk to now is somehow using. A lot of it is Microsoft Copilot. Fine.
Unfortunate, but okay. It's a good start.
Right. But within many major organizations, that's all people have legitimate access to, right?
I get it.
So I think maybe two things we could talk about today. One is, okay, so people are using it. Amazing. How do we give people some ideas about how do get the most out of it, whether it's individually for your personal stuff or in your enterprise and work environment.
Yep.
And then the flip side of that is, like, I've come across a couple of examples where organizations are finding people are using it too much.
Yeah.
And then that's becoming a bit of an economic challenge. So maybe let's start with one and then get to the other one. So if we
I want to clarify one thing on the use too much. I wouldn't say use too much, but it's costing too much.
Yes.
Right?
Fair enough.
And maybe it's more about efficiency than it is about scaling back use. So we can get into that for sure.
Let's do both of those. Okay, so let's start with the using it more. And where do we think we should start here in terms of, are there, some things that I should be doing? Like the other day, you actually mentioned something to me about I should be creating, I think you called it a project, which had my voice and all of that kind of stuff to help as these tools are helping me with my project, my writing, but help become more clear about who I am and how I want to face the world when I produce these things.
Right. Well, for sure. Like if you're writing a lot, using AI to write for you, I highly suggest you take a bunch of emails you've written, if you've written any blog posts or anything, and as much as you want, and just copy and paste that into, even if it's just like a regular chat window, right? With one of the ChatGPT or Claude, and tell it, look, hey, I want you to learn how to sound like me, and here's a whole bunch of stuff. And when we talked about this originally, which, the first thing that popped in my head is like, I don't want you to ever use M dashes when you write stuff. And you were like the only person I know who actually used M dashes before.
Legitimately.
Like for real and properly. So people probably think if you're being you and it's they're thinking it's AI, but I know it's not. So if you want it to sound like you, especially emails and stuff, right? You don't want it to sound like you wrote it or got AI to do it. Although that's becoming more and more expected. I do believe, like, I'm not offended at all if somebody sends me something like that. I'd be more questioning, if it's something they could have done with AI, then you probably should have done it with AI anyways. But you do want it to sound like you.
Yes, and I just get concerned too when people take it and don't
read it.
Don't put any thought into it. Don't take out the opening paragraph and the closing paragraph, which are dead ringer giveaways that I just wrote this with AI, right? Yeah. So I think people do need to still put some of their own touch on top of it. But your point being, if I give it a bunch of examples of how I write, it helps with my tone and my approach.
And you might want to create a project to do this. You don't have to. You can do it just in the chat. But, I would start on your desktop, right? Create a folder on your desktop somewhere, call it like Pam's Voice or something like that, right? And just put, it can be PDFs, it can be text files, it can be Word documents, whatever you want. Just give it a bunch of examples and then go and tell it, say, hey, in this folder is a bunch of examples of my writing. I want you to learn how to, and you want to tell it to store it in their memory. So, because they both have ways to kind of remember things now. And it'll start to sound more and more like you. So that's one of the ways. Now, that's not going to help with your efficiency, but it's going to help you feel more comfortable using it.
So let's give an efficiency example. What are you thinking in terms of either what the average bear out there in the workplace should be doing differently to use AI tools to help them be more efficient and effective? I might be kind of unusual in that regard because I'm at my portfolio stage, but the average bear in the office or, working 9 to 5 every day, what kind of tools should they be using?
Well, I can give you some examples of some of the stuff that I've done that I've found helpful. So, the whole idea of creating curated content, when you're thinking, okay, I want the AI to know this, right? The context, it's all about context, right? But you no longer have to put everything into one prompt in your context, right? So, I love projects for both OpenAI and Anthropic. But I also prefer to use like Claude Code and Codex because it gives me more options. I mentioned earlier the 20 file limit and all that kind of stuff with OpenAI. But, for instance, I'm trying to define where our business is going next, the Perfinity, and what we're going to do. And I've been working a lot with individual chats with the AIs, but then I will create a markdown file from each one of those chats and I'll put it into a folder. And now that becomes either a project or, a one-off kind of chat, but we're referencing that. And that I found adds a lot more value. And it'll even pick up without you referencing, if you turn this on, it'll start picking up old chats and remember, hey, you talked about this, and so I think this, right? That helps a lot with the effectiveness. Efficiency-wise, I think one of the biggest things you can do is, especially if you're doing something repeatedly, right? Try it on different models, right? So Claude's got Opus and they have Sonnet and they have Haiku, right? Go down the list and see if you're getting a good enough answer from the cheaper ones. If you're doing this over and over and over,
that's a good point.
Especially if you're getting like more advanced now and you're creating agents or you're creating flows, repeat processes. Let's say you want to process invoices or something, right? It's a pretty repetitive thing, and if it's doing it for one, it can probably do it, if it can do it on Opus, maybe it can do it on Sonnet, and then you're going to save a lot of money if you're doing that a lot. So that's, take a look at those. By default, I'm like 4.8 extra high, whatever the max thing is.
Yeah.
Usually because I'm using it to really trying to do some strategic thinking that I'm like, I want the smartest guy in the room right now.
Yeah.
Like, once I have a process, I can dumb it down and use a guy who's not quite as a guy.
Yeah.
An AI that's not quite as, expensive, not quite as smart. But the amazing thing too is the sonnet today, 4.8 sonnet or whatever it is, is as smart as Opus was last release.
Yeah.
So they're coming very quickly.
There's a little bit of what's good enough still for what you're doing. So there are like 5 things in there that I wanted to pick up on. I have to see if I can remember them all, but I'm going to start with context. And context is really, I think, something that is so important that perhaps people don't really realize. And, at the beginning, it was all about how do you write the most effective prompt? And I think there's still aspects to that.
Yes.
But it's also evolved very much to get the most out of it, to be the most effective. It's not just a one and done. It is a start a conversation and put a good amount of what are you trying to get at into the first part of it, but then continue a conversation once the AI comes back to you.
Yes, a couple things on that. One is the prompt is, in my mind, in my experience, is becoming less about feeding it all kinds of stuff. Matter of fact, I've experienced where it's less effective when I give it too much because I'm telling it to do what I want it to do as opposed to telling it the problem I want it to solve, which it probably has a better idea on how to do that than I do, right?
Yeah.
And it's smart enough now where it figures that out. What I've started doing is, like I said, I put these folders together and I might have other reference material that I know it could help, right? And I'll start the conversation with, hey, look, help me gather and understand all the right things to put together so that then we can take that information and go down this path. And sometimes what's great is you say that, and if you're using Claude Code or Codex, you can say create a new folder, put those documents just in that folder, right? So now it's gone through, it's read all the documents you gave. It's like that one doesn't matter. This one's really important. We need to put that in there.
Yeah.
And then maybe it goes out and searches the web and finds some important things too. And then it creates this new kind of treasure trove of the information that you need for the context of that specific thing.
Yeah. And so something else in there that you just said made me think of, it's actually like leadership, because you don't tell it how to do what you're trying to do, tell it what the outcome you're looking for, which is very much about leading people, right? If you tell them how to do it, then you're only going to get an answer or an outcome that you would have probably come at. And by having other people around you, you're actually trying to get the best of everybody's perspective.
Or they would stumble if something out of the ordinary happens, right?
Yeah.
If you tell them exactly what they have to do, as opposed to, hey, this is the goal, then they'll work around the problems to get to the goal. So
someday we can do a whole episode on leading AI and how it's the same and different as leading people, because I think there's a lot of interesting elements in there. And now, of course, I have forgotten the other things that I wanted to. The other thing about context, which is actually quite similar to, we had talked the other day about the evolutions that are happening in LinkedIn and its algorithm, and context is becoming like the most important thing, and not just formats and things like that, which I think, like, you can see the parallels between what's happening in both places in that regard. All right, so then I want to give one example of how I recently used AI to be, I think, quite helpful to me.
Right.
And then I want to move into the, and how is it becoming like maybe too much for organizations to try to figure out how to get it into a good, effective, efficient balance. So, but before we get into that, which may end up being a part 2 of our podcast as opposed to all in one episode, we'll see how long this goes. One of the things that you had several months ago had said,